All right, welcome to the last lesson. I'm Ed Cruz. Today's topic, we're going to talk again about the stance. Different ways to look at the stance, approach it, as opposed to basically stance, structure, yada, yada, yada. But today, let's keep the subject very simple in a sense. So, everyone knows the value of the stance, everyone knows how important the stance is, but first, let's stress the point that hearing, knowing, and actually believing are different things, right? And obviously, you can't rush that pace. Like, it takes a while for you to gradually get to the point where you understand what something means. You may hear it, you may mentally understand it, but as far as valuing it and believing it are two different things. So when it comes to the stance, the technique as far as opening the stance and so forth, I've gone over that before. Maybe I'll go over it again at some other point. But you want to look at it in the sense that everything starts with the stance, even from the get-go when you open up. So, but a lot of times in the beginning, you stand feet together, heels slightly open like this, and you basically, from here, day one, you cross and you do whatever. You don't really understand the value of it, but you just go through the motions, and eventually you start to get an understanding of it. But this purpose in the beginning is, first of all, when people put the feet together, they think, it's just ready position, let me get started. But let's look a little bit deeper on how we want to approach things, and how we want to approach things later on when we get better in Wing Chun. So, if I was to take you from day one and then fast forward to maybe 10, 15, 20 years from now, okay? The way you should look at it, the way I believe you should look at it right now, is to think of, first, you develop the awareness of the center of gravity, you develop the feeling for the center of gravity. At a certain point, you find like okay, right there is that perfect point where I know where my center of gravity is. And it doesn't have to be like in a robotic state where it needs to be. You're basically going through the motions, opening a stance. It's like, oh, okay, like here, I know where my center of gravity is here. Here, I know where my center of gravity is here. Here, I know where my center of gravity is. So first stem from everything that you do as far as where exactly is my center of gravity. So if I was to try to describe what the center of gravity is, it's somewhere in the middle. It's kind of like, it doesn't have a horizontal, vertical, or whatever outlook that you're looking at. It's just somewhere within the middle of your core that the center of gravity is. That if you were just to find the most perfect place within it, would be like the most perfectly balanced piece of yourself, right? Like kind of like Thanos, like all things perfectly balanced, right? So if I was to, like for example, most people, they open up their stance and they're like this. But the way I look at it is, people do motions first to find their center. But at a certain point, when you have your center, right? Like for example, I can feel where my center of gravity is, like somewhere around here, just to give you an idea to mentally picture it. And then from that point on, what I want to do is basically make sure I'm aligning the lower triangle, which involves the legs to the hips, to the upper triangle, which involves the arms to the shoulders, to make sure that this area right here, right, the 2 points created from the lower part to upper part of the body, stays steady and still. Now that doesn't mean steady and still where I'm holding it in place and not forcing it to move. It would be like if I had a cup of water in my hand, right? And then all of a sudden your outside forces are hitting me and knocking it over. I'm gonna make sure that I do everything to protect this cup of water and make sure it's stabilized first. Why? Because that is the source of our power, right? When we feel the center of gravity, from a steadiness of the center of gravity, then we can utilize the ground, and then from there connect to our opponent and apply whatever we need to, okay? So the way I want you to look at it is find that. And it's not like, oh, there it is, I gotta grab onto it and hold it in place, right? No, it's like you find it's like right there is the perfect balance where everything is right in the center for my center of gravity. And then once I have that, then I think in the sense of like from the lower part, like from the simple thing is from like a little tuck in, to the knees slightly pointed in, to the feet pointed in slightly. I'm looking at it in terms of alignment. Not just simply like, okay, I can just stand here and still find my center. Yes, you can. But I want to get to the closest point where I have the most perfect alignment possible, where I use the least amount of muscle at the same time to hold the lower part of the center of gravity steady. Then once I have that, right, and I'm breaking this down into pieces, once I have that, then I'm going to look at the upper part, which involves from the elbow to the shoulder, and make that steady too. So notice I have a tension. And the tension, it's hard to say exactly how it is, but inflation, the terminology I usually say is inflation is like you inflate it to have the right tension. But I'm cautious to use inflation now because one, inflation might be construed as a form of muscle, like a tightening. But the way I look at it is alignment to tension. Okay, that means if I align everything properly, everything has the right alignment. That means once I let go, right? Once I let go and relax, if I have everything in place, the tension stays exactly where it should be, and the center of gravity is steady and still at that entire time. But if, let's say my alignment's a little off, and let's say I force it in like this, right? I'm forcing it in like this, and it feels okay, then the next thing I know, if I fully relax, notice my knees pop out, and then it's too much for me to hold in one place. Right alignment, right tension, right alignment to lead to the correct tension, to lead to the automatic reaction that you want, and to create that steady center of gravity is basically, once I have it in place, and then basically I chill out, like for example, I chill out, notice, it's steady. You see it. You don't feel yourself going like this, right? Even I'm exaggerating it a bit, but you can feel that. So you're looking for proper placement of everything. Once you can achieve that and be like, okay, now I know exactly how to keep this steady, that means I can stand like this. Look, not even in Wing Chun stance, and I'm perfectly aligned. Now I have that stability in my center of gravity. Okay, steady stability of the center of gravity. You need to achieve this first in steadiness, and then when you start moving in dynamic motion, then you can apply anything that you want to it. But first, achieve this, right? Achieve that steadiness where you feel, if I was drawing number one, find your center of gravity. You don't have to hold it. You just like, right there is the center of gravity. Somewhere in here that you feel your center of gravity. Then from your center of gravity, stem from that and work your way from down up and up here to have like a tension. See how I have like a tension? Tension in the sense that I'm not squeezing or putting any muscle into it. I'm just like, if you have a deck of cards, lining it up, the deck of cards fully by itself, and then letting go, and the deck of cards can form a house. So same thing here, I just make sure everything's lined up, not too much in, not too much out, just feel for what's right. And then at that point, when you can achieve the lower tension and the lower alignment to create the tension, and the upper alignment from the arms to the shoulder, then you'll achieve that steadiness, okay? That steadiness, and you need to achieve this and be aware of it, okay? Because once you have that steadiness, then you can take it to the next step, okay? So for now, let's work on that, and hopefully it gets better.